Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer takes place this weekend in the main event of UFC 250, and I'll be honest with you guys, it's not the best main event in the world. However, there is still a title on the line and something up for grabs. High stakes situation here. Amanda Nunes defending her featherweight world title against a worthy contender, I guess you could say, in Felicia Spencer. Originally, when this fight was first made, I started tickling my beard. I was thinking, well, my pathetic excuse for a beard. I started tickling it, and I thought to myself, those odds are a little bit juicy, and I don't mind Felicia Spencer's chances, but the more I did a little bit of reminding over some of Felicia Spencer's fights, I realised I was very, very wrong, and I do apologise for even giving off that kind of energy about Felicia Spencer winning this fight. I think Amanda Nunes is going to completely destroy her. I thought Germaine de Randamie was going to be a little bit of a challenge for Nunes, but other than one triangle attempt and one moment on the feet, Germaine de Randamie didn't really hang too well with Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes is the greatest women fighter in the world. I mean, that's just a fact. Look what she did to Chris Cyborg, and you could say, it was a reckless Cyborg, but at the same time, it's still Chris Cyborg. If Cyborg went Hail Mary against Felicia Spencer, I would bet there's about a 1% chance that Spencer could do what Nunes did against the same Cyborg that showed up against Nunes. Even still, Felicia Spencer is not the greatest fighter. I mean, she's got a decent record, very respectable, I'll be honest with you guys. Pretty respectable record, 8-1. Not usually the record you see fighting for titles. Usually the record you see losing to Bryce Mitchell by Twister and Matt Sales. Either way, you know, she's the #1 current best female featherweight in the world because she's 8-1. That is a sign to me that you've got yourself an empty fucking division. And I'll tell you this, even though her score is respectable, without the pathway to the belt that's so difficult for some of these other female fighters, like imagine having to go through the strawweight division in comparison to the featherweight division. You can have a real good record by the time you get to the title, because guess what? You win 2 fights in the UFC at women's featherweight, you're fighting for a belt. You beat Megan Anderson, lose to Chris Cyborg, and then go on a massive 1-fight win streak against Zara Fern dos Santos, who isn't even good. She was 6-3 at the time, now 6-4. She's just big enough to be a female featherweight, which is hard to come by apparently. Even though I see tall women around, they need to get into fighting a little bit more, because the featherweight division, listen, you put together a 1-fight win streak like Felicia Spencer, jeez. You last the distance against Chris Cyborg and just don't get KO'd, you got a title shot coming your way. I don't mean to shit all over Felicia Spencer here, she's a very good fighter. She has a chance to take Amanda Nunes down, be on top of her, be the bigger woman, beat her up a little bit, maybe go for a submission. I just don't see it happening. It's Amanda Nunes. You know, you look at some of the differences in the way they've treated their opponents. Like Chris Cyborg is one common opponent that the pair of them have. That I really do understand, and I want to talk about this in this video. I do understand that Felicia Spencer was tough in that fight, but I also understand if that was a male fight, they would be saying that the person was being dominated and had no chance of winning and needs to go back to the drawing board. Like, the entire fight that they were watching, it was the co-main event of UFC 240, which was fucking ridiculous from the get-go. If you remember UFC 240 Edmonton, one of the worst cards in UFC history. Holloway versus Edgar for the belt, and then even Marc-Andre Barriault versus Krzysztof Jotko was on the main card, I believe. That's how bad the card was. Even still, Chris Cyborg just beat up on Felicia Spencer for 3 rounds like it was nothing. And other than one cut on her forehead, where Felicia Spencer landed some weird elbow that she went for, literally nothing happened. So yeah, I also know the fact that Amanda Nunes has been training for quite some time. She's been wanting to go back up and defend her featherweight belt. She looked in shape for the fight as well. Watched a bit of the countdown. We're going to talk about the countdown numbers as well, because that is shockingly low. I don't know. I think they should have made a countdown about Sean O'Malley, to be honest with you. But even still, let's go back to the Cyborg fight. A lot of people took good things away from Felicia Spencer. You know what I took away? She backed up for 3 rounds, avoided being KO'd, didn't really do anything of any success whatsoever other than one elbow that cut open Chris Cyborg. And that's about it. And other than that, she got completely dominated. And if that was a different situation where it wasn't a female featherweight or a female fighter in general, they would have shit all over them and said it was a terrible performance. But, you know, she's Felicia Spencer. She gets some credit. I understand she's a very dangerous contender. I understand there is some risk on the line. There's always risk on the line when you're fighting a championship fight. But I do realise that the road to get to the featherweight world title is going to leave some holes in your game that a girl like Amanda Nunes is going to expose. And it leaves some holes in your game. And I don't mean to sound too much like Kevin Lee here. it leaves some holes in your game that you don't even know about yet. Because you're 8-1, you haven't really faced anyone that's really taught you a lesson or two other than Chris Cyborg. And what really lesson is there to learn from that fight other than the fact maybe I should stand and plant my feet when I throw my punches? Like, there's only so much I can take away from that fight that Felicia Spencer is going to learn. I think the only thing that Felicia Spencer learned from the Chris Cyborg fight might have been that she can't beat Chris Cyborg. Because Chris Cyborg punches like a man. Like, I hate to say this, but I thought exactly the same thing about Weili Zhang about 2 years ago or a year ago. There's something about the way these girls punch that's literally man-like. And I'm not trying to be a little bit weird about it, but like, they literally throw like men. They plant their feet, they rock 'em, sock 'em. Amanda Nunes, rock 'em, sock 'em like Amanda Nunes. She throws like a man. Like, the clue's in her name. Who do you think's going to win this fight? A man, duh. Like, there's such a forced joke. I'm so sorry about that one, but it makes so much sense. She literally has a man, duh, in her name. It's perfect. She's going to land a big shot on Felicia Spencer, probably put her out cold. I like Felicia Spencer. I think she has a good chance of maybe going in there and smothering Amanda Nunes against a cage, but I also understand Amanda Nunes is training at ATT right now. I like that more than the Jungle MMA and Fitness. The Jungle MMA and Fitness, don't get me wrong, although it might be a respectable gym, it ain't no ATT. Like, they're known for their huge names, such as, give me a second, I'll find one of their big names that's come out of their gym. Kyle Jacobs, the 3-0 amateur. Who else is one of their big names coming out of that gym? Oh, Seth the Silverback Petrozelli, 14-8, used to be in the UFC, I believe. Yep. Really great gym there. I just don't see it. Like, ATT, they're on all cylinders right now. They got Masvidal training for a fight. They got Dustin Poirier training for a fight. They've got a plethora of people in their camp ready and training. They've got a real team environment around them. Pretty much breaking social distancing rules, but I'm down for it if we get a better performance on the night from these people. I don't really give a fuck. Amanda Nunes is in a gym right now on all systems go. I don't know about Felicia Spencer. Maybe she's having some private pad holding sessions, but even still, I don't think she's going to pose any kind of threat. She could go in there. Don't get me... And I'll say this again, just in case it comes back to bite me in the ass, as the Americans would say. She could go in there, get her hands together against Amanda Nunes on the cage, and take her down. But I just don't see it happening. Amanda Nunes has got really good takedown defense. Like, really good takedown defense. She's really strong. She throws punches well, which is like only 5% of female MMA fighters do that without just flinging them out from their shoulders. Like, she's one of the female fighters that is good, Amanda Nunes. Like, if you look what she did to Holly Holm, look at the resumes. Holly Holm, Jermaine Durandamir, Chris Cyborg. And you look at Felicia Spencer's resume. Zara Fenn. Heard of her? Nope. Megan Anderson. Okay, she's a big girl. Thanks. Pam Sorensen. Literally... Felicia Spencer fought better competition outside of the UFC featherweight division than she did inside the UFC featherweight division. That's unreal. Outside the UFC featherweight division, she fought Hella Kolesnik when she was 5-1 and Felicia Spencer was 4-0. Then she fought Pam Sorensen when she was 7-2 and Felicia Spencer was 5-0. And then she gets into the UFC, fights someone who's 8-3 at the time, and then 6-3. How does that make any... How are you fighting lesser competition inside the UFC than outside of it? It's not even a real division. I think Nunes is going to go up there, get a free title defense. I do want to talk about the countdown stuff, and I'll end on that as well. I do think Amanda Nunes... I'll give an official prediction. Amanda Nunes is going to win this fight by first round KO. In my opinion. I think Felicia Spencer is probably going to do a lot of holding Amanda Nunes against a cage, which actually is probably going to work for the first few moments. Then Amanda Nunes is going to get free, turn her around. Then Felicia Spencer's back is going to be along the cage. I don't think she has the experience to get out of that situation with Amanda Nunes. Nunes is going to light her up against the cage. There's just a level of striking that you need. And it's the same with the level of jiu-jitsu. I'll say this, and I'll end on this. This is my bottom line. Amanda Nunes has the jiu-jitsu fundamentals to avoid anything that Felicia Spencer does to her on the ground. In my opinion. If not better at jiu-jitsu than... She's better at jiu-jitsu than Felicia Spencer, but I understand that Spencer is a bigger girl, so that's going to come into things quite a bit. Nunes is able to defend on the ground against submissions. Felicia Spencer lacks the striking fundamentals to defend herself against Amanda Nunes on the feet. That's where this is going to be decided. Nunes will be able to stop the things that Felicia Spencer does, and Felicia Spencer will not be able to stop the things that Amanda Nunes does, because she's just not quite experienced enough. And I think this isn't her fault that she's been thrusted towards a title shot this quickly. But, you know, it's kind of the UFC's fault. They should have had a better female featherweight division. They really should. Like, it's just not a division yet. You can't start a division with 5 people in it. The rankings are 15 or more. Like, the rankings are 15 people. That's your first clue of at least getting 15. Why would you start a division with 5 people? That makes zero sense. You have you're a parent company to Invicta FC. You own that company. Build a featherweight division there. Wait 2 years until they form somewhat of a respectable set of rankings, and then just import the entire thing over. It's so easy. But, you know, they wanted another belt so Cyborg could fight Nunes. And so that Cyborg could fight in the UFC. I don't understand. The featherweight division needs help. I've always said that maybe Holly Holm and Raquel Pennington and Jermaine Durandamy should all go back up to featherweight and have another try, because that way it'll be a lot easier for them to get back to a title shot with such a shallow division. But I do want to talk about the countdown numbers, because this is somewhat embarrassing, and we'll leave on this. UFC 250 countdown of Sunsao versus Garbrandt has got 231k views in 19 hours. Nunes versus Spencer countdown has got 49k views in 19 hours. The countdown is often one of the biggest sets of promotional tools used in pay-per-view events. The countdowns, the embedded also comes into it as well, which usually gets a bit better of the views. But a countdown coming out first is often a good display of how this pay-per-view is going to trend. And it's hit 51k views on YouTube. You know? It just doesn't look too good. Like, Mackenzie Dern's post-fight interview got more views than that, for example, yesterday. You know? I just don't know about it. I feel like they could have done a much better job of just not even doing a countdown for Nunes versus Spencer, because what really is there to say? This girl lost to Chris Cyborg, but since then, she's put together an amazing 1-fight win streak to challenge Amanda. Like, there's nothing to sell on a countdown, other than them just hitting pads. Put a Sean O'Malley versus Brian Kelleher countdown video. It probably got more views than the Garbrandt versus a Sunsao one. I understand that they're trying to promote Nunes Spencer, but I think what they should have done instead to secure the pay-per-view buys is promote the bigger names on the card, get people to buy the pay-per-view based on the bigger names, like Sean O'Malley, like Garbrandt versus a Sunsao, maybe even did a little bit of a, instead of doing a full 31-minute episode of Nunes versus Spencer countdown, maybe do a 15 minutes Sean O'Malley Kelleher, a 15 minutes Aljamain Sterling versus Corey Sandhagen, so that the title elimination bouts get some buzz as well. Use that to get people to buy the pay-per-view, and then once they've bought the pay-per-view, then at the end of their pay-per-view, they'll stick around to watch a title fight, Nunes versus Spencer. They're not going to buy the pay-per-view, watch until Garbrandt to Sunsao and be like, oh, the women's bantamweight belt's on the line? Who gives a fuck? I've only spent £65. I'll leave. They're going to watch it. Just don't use them as the promotional tool. I'm not shitting on female fighters here. If this was Nunes versus... Well, I don't know of an interesting matchup off the top of my head, but if this was Nunes-Shevchenko 3, which is pretty difficult to sell because it's a third fight, even though Nunes won both of them, but you could sell it off the fact that maybe Shevchenko edged one of those fights and it could be 1-1 and use that whole narrative, then I would understand putting them as a promotional tool. But it's just not big enough to promote. So I don't know why they've done it, but I get it. They're being nice. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I think Nunes is going to KO Spencer in the first round. I apologise for my original comments a few months ago where I said I'm betting on Spencer because she's such a big underdog. Because she's just not going to win. Click that button there. Oh, already missed it there. There you go. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Yeah.